Good morning, everyone. It's Allyson from QuiltNCode. I'm so glad you're joining me this morning. If you're not able to join me this morning, but you follow me later, I love that. So you are still welcome to make comments into the comment section of the live. This is our Hankie challenge. So let me tell you all about this. First of all, make sure you have a drink so that we can just rejuvenate our little souls and just relax. And this is designing time. This is just time for me to be one with fabric and my drink. So this is my coffee this morning. I think I have a white chocolate raspberry creamer in there this morning. Nice little treats. It's just wonderful. So this morning we are working on our Hankie challenge. And so if you are just now joining us for the Hankie challenge, I'll explain that to you. The Hankie challenge is all about a customer who came into me with a whole bunch of hankies and said, I want you to do something with these because nobody uses hankies as hankies anymore. So please upcycle these for me. It took me about 6 months to figure out what to do with them. And she came in and said, I want you to do it all live. And I went, what? She said, I want you to do it all live. So get on Facebook Live, get on YouTube Live, and just do this. And so I'm using this as an experiment to design and use you guys as help to do that. So my first project just happened to be this little bag. It is based on a Lazy Girl Designs pattern. Wonderful. I was able to put a little pocket back here for my business cards and everything. It's just wonderful. If you're interested in that, it's a previous live, so you can look back. And then we finished up a couple weeks ago our notebook cover that I used a whole bunch of different hankies that had yellows and greens, focusing on this little guy right here that we did some reverse applique with. I'm also learning how to do hand embroidery, not something I'd really been interested in the past, but I'm really enjoying doing some different stuff with these projects. And so those were the first two projects. Now we're working on the blue hankies and trying to come up with a table runner. So I have a rough design, and I'll stick this right here in front of the little camera so that my cameraman, my husband back there, can throw that on. And so this is where I'm headed, kind of, sort of. And so these squares are each 6.5 inches. And last week at our live, I did a mock-up of this block just to make sure I knew what I was doing, could make a pattern, because if any of you have used EQ8 before, EQ8 gives you the measurements. It gives you the, that type of thing, but it doesn't tell you how to put stuff together. And so it sort of assumes that you have some quilting ability to be able to say, okay, I want to put this block together this way. And that's what we did last week. I mapped all that out. And so you can see that on last week's live. Maybe it was last week's, maybe it was a couple weeks ago. Might have been a couple weeks ago. We went to H&H, and I have been in a fog ever since just because we've been so busy. But in a previous live, you'll see that block and how you make it. Okay, so today's issue, if you'll notice on the table runner, I left specifically 2 blocks with which I could have an open space here to take care of my butterflies. Okay, so I have a couple of butterflies here. So I'm gonna just sort of move everything out of the way. We're not gonna use these hankies today. I'm not ready for those quite yet, but I will let you see this array of fabric that I've pulled out. And so I've pulled all of these different colors out and they all sort of blend well with these. The ones I'm having problems with is this one, this particular hanky you can see it better under the background fabric that I've chosen, has a blue and pink thing happening here. And this is the only scrap I have that has the blue and the pink. I love it. It looks great, but I certainly have a lot more of the blue and yellow. Obviously, I like blue and yellow in my scraps. I have a lot more of the blue and yellow. And so just sort of playing with that. And so I'm going to leave that for another week. I'm just going to let myself, in my head, I do most of my designing while I'm asleep. And at 2 a.m., I wake up and go, got it. And so I know what I want to do with my butterflies. So we're going to go ahead and get that done today. And that way you can see that process, and we'll see if it even works, because I am doing something that I am not sure is going to work. So we're going to find out today if it even works. So let me move all my scraps over here to the side so I have a little bit of room to sew. I love applique. It is one of my joys in life is to applique. And so I have gone ahead and prepared my 6.5-inch square. Okay. By preparing, that means that I used my magic quilting and crafting spray, and I sprayed it down, and then I ironed it, and I sprayed it down again. I mean, soaked that baby. And then I ironed it again. And then I did it one more time. And so what it does is sort of, you can see how this fabric is really, really flimsy. And then this fabric has a stiffer quality to it. And that way I know that fabric isn't going to shrink on me or pucker or do anything like that when I'm doing my appliques. Now, I wouldn't find that to be a problem in today's applique because I'm just going to use a straight stitch, but this allows me to not have to use any stabilizer underneath, and that makes it easier for me as I'm sewing. And then the other thing I did to prepare was I went ahead and I fray checked all along here because I am going to cut this butterfly out. And then I'm going to restitch it down using my applique stitch. And so knowing that, I took a little, I was really examining what I had here, okay? And so I don't know if I will be able to show you on the camera, but if you can see it, these little antenna guys, you might be able to see it better on the darker one. Where did I put you? I have another hanky. I already lost it. I lost the other butterfly. Okay, you're in here somewhere. There you are. Okay, so it's a little bit easier to see with this one because he's got pink antennas versus the little yellow ones. Okay, so, or he has a pink antenna. Lanny, am I in the right place? Excellent. And so see how these guys are loose and then they are attached down here, right there. I'm going to cut those and we're going to assume that those are going to remain intact. If they don't, I have a plan. I don't want to use that plan, but I have that plan. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I went ahead and I fray checked from the edge here all the way over. And I did this a couple hours ago. And so you can sort of see how it made a little bit of a spot on my fabric, but I'm not using that fabric, so I'm not really worried about that part. All I really want is to be able to put the butterfly onto my background fabric and stitch it down. Okay, so another thing I wanted to mention was that I went ahead and I found a blue fabric. This is a chalk texture royal blue that I am going to use as all the background. That way there is some continuity throughout the table runner. And so I am going to put my butterflies in those square sections right here and here as being a solid color. I'm not necessarily going to use it in all of these places, but that gives me a background that's going to be consistent throughout the table runner. And I'll probably use it around the edges as well, just to give that consistency. When we were doing the notebook cover, having a bit of a scattered idea there was fine, but with my table runner, I definitely want to have a consistency in the color. Okay, so that being said, I have allowed this baby to dry, and I did this a few hours ago so that it would be nice and solid. And the nice thing about fray check is that usually you can use that and it's going to take care of all problems. In fact, I have never used fray check and it not solve all the fraying problems that I needed it to solve. I did not notice any color change in the little threads that I'm trying to save. I only noticed the color change happening on the napkin itself. And like I said, I'm totally cool with that because that's going to disappear. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to take I'm going to find my seam ripper that's around here somewhere. Oh, nope, it's not. It's behind the camera. Thank you very much. I'm going to take my seam ripper. No wonder I couldn't find it. It's all the way over there. That's why you should really have like 20 seam rippers so that you can constantly find your seam rippers. And I am going to start by simply releasing these little antennas because that's where I'm the most nervous. I'm like, okay, I know these are just tacked down, but are they really? There we go. There's one. And the reason why I kind of thought I could do this was because they're even tacked down in a different color. Well, at least the pink one was. And I thought, well, okay, if the pink one is tacked down in a different color, I don't think they're tacked down with the actual threads. And so I think I can get away with this. There is a pink thread right there. Okay, come on now. Come on loose. There we go. There we go. Okay, so those two little guys are free. So now I can cut along here and see if that releases my butterfly. When I first started, I was just gonna cut. Oh, I'm using my best scissors, by the way. I'm using my super, super sharp scissors. I was just gonna fray check the ends here, and then I thought, no, you know what? Do the whole thing. That way, if I mess up, I will at least have time to fix the mess up before things go really awry. And I'm not going too close right now because I just want to get this guy out of here and then decide how I want to applique this down. Make sure I get my little antenna out of the way. Normally I like to use a blanket stitch when I'm appliquing down. A blanket stitch or a buttonhole stitch can be called either. And I think I'm gonna have to do that around this edge here. But for the rest of it, I am simply gonna use a straight stitch to tack down everything. Okay, so got my little butterfly free here. Now I have to decide. Okay, so now that he's on here, isn't that cute? See, then I'm gonna have to decide whether he's going into and that's a later discussion. Okay, so do I want to trim a little closer and then do a blanket stitch here, trim even a little closer and using more fray check to try and get in there? Or do I want to use something like a satin stitch to just cover this up? And so I think I want to go a little closer, but I'm going to go ahead and get my yellow one done. And I think while I'm waiting, I think I'll go ahead and just fray check just a little bit more. So fray check is wonderful. It is wonderful for all sorts of things. And so if you are working with a ribbon, using fray check on the end of that ribbon will help prevent it from fraying while you're trying to figure out and get it sewn. Sometimes we can, when we're working with ribbon especially, that's like one of my favorite reasons to use fray check, is just because then I don't have to worry about that fraying happening. And if you fray check it before you cut it, that helps too. I'm just giving it a little head start. It smells delightful. Not. Okay, this one I think I fray checked a little bit better, at least a little bit closer to the thing. And remember, I'm going to start with getting my little antenna out of the way before I do anything else. Did I release you? You are free. There you go. You are free. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here that I did before. Just rough cut this out so that I can know what I'm working with. Try and keep it in the camera. Lanny will tell me if I don't. I'll have to get you in a minute. Okay. So now I will definitely use like the other lace on these. Oh, he's switching me back over. I saw him. Oh, I will definitely use the rest of the lace that's on, or the crocheting that's on the rest of these hankies. So I'm throwing them back over into our pile. Okay. So now that what? Right. And so I'm looking at that. And that's another reason why I'm using that crochet. And so I think that I can scoochie it on closer and get it as close to that stitching as possible. And then I can blanket stitch on the top part of my, that's why I went ahead and put some more fray check on this one, was because I was like, I'm not sure I got close enough. This one I definitely did. And so I probably did. I just can't see it. It's so quiet when I'm doing this.
It's like doing surgery.
Right, I can't multitask. Which my brother will tell me I can't multitask anyway.
Well, and that's okay, considering, multitasking is really the art of doing multiple things poorly at the same time. So.
Exactly. So he tells me I have that art down perfectly well. Like, thanks. I think if I were to just blanket stitch right here on the top edge, that's going to be fantastic. Okay. And I think before I go and stitch stuff down, I do just want to, oh, come on. Oh, it doesn't pop up and screws up. Shh. They're laughing at me again. Yeah. User error. I'm good at user error. Just get some more in here because I'm paranoid. There we go. All right, coolio. So let me get this just trimmed a little bit closer. I kind of feel like I need to say, don't try this at home or something. No, you're supposed to try this at home. This is creativity at work. How are you going to learn if you don't make mistakes? And then I'll get the project done and I'll be like, oh, I wish I would have done this. Or I wish I would have done that. Oops. Good thing I have that fray check. Oh, you're just way too out there. Come on. There we go. There we go. Wonder if my mom's holding her breath out there. I am. I'm holding my breath. Okay. Look at those little guys. All right, cool. Move them a little further away. So there they are. Okay, so I'm going to start with the smaller little guy. And you know what I'm going to do? In order to center him onto my piece, I am going to crease by going diagonal. Maybe. It is a 6.5-inch square, I think. It was supposed to be. We're going to find out right now. Boy, it sure doesn't look it. Okay, bring out my... I go to I go to line this thing up and it's like not lining up correctly. So RU is 6.5-inch square. Little bit off.
Too big or too small?
It's a little bit on the too big side.
Better problem to have.
Right. It just needs to be trimmed up just a little bit. I was, well, and look at that. That's like a little too small. I wonder if this is the other one I had. Or it shrank when I was doing my, it might have shrank when I was doing my, it definitely did. I usually like spray down my stuff and iron my stuff down. It looks like it really, really shrank. So I usually iron it, do that and then iron it. And I didn't this time. I was like, oh no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, right? It'll be fine. So you guys get to see how I do it. All right. And then I'll use those for 3.5-inch squares. No problem. All right, cool. So when I am doing this part, I cover up. Oh, I better make sure you're on really hot. I cover up my entire space because when I spray this down, it goes everywhere. So you can see how I'm drenching this thing. Till it's just absolutely, and then you can just leave it. When I was doing my mini, I literally just hung it up on the wall and just let it stay. And then I came back in, sprayed it right back down, and then I let it left for an hour and let it dry on its own. Since I'm in a hurry, I'm going to use a nice hot iron, but you also notice that I have covered this up. I don't like to use my iron surface directly on the spray. Normally that's because I like to use cheap starch sometimes to do this process. But since this is so small, I decided to use the crafting and quilting spray, which works wonderfully as well, obviously, because it shrunk the mess out of my fabric. So it wasn't that bad, but so you can see how it is absolutely soaking in here. Okay, and I am just gonna, I think I might turn it over so that it will. But this is how I do it. I just spray and spray and spray. This little iron gets so hot. The only thing I don't like about it is the spray function is a little hard to, the steam function, it's a little hard to press, so I don't use that very often. I just get out my water bottle. Now that it's dry, it is mostly dry, I'm gonna go ahead and do it again. It's nice to know that this is how I have to do it. I mean, I've been doing it this way. Today I was like, oh, I'm just gonna cut the pieces and then I'll just spray them. It'll be fine. Yeah, right. That's what I get for live TV. The cover cloth is nice and stiff. I think I'll drink some coffee while I do this. So much for having everything all prepared and ready to go. what's the saying? You know, measure once, cut twice, and then, measure twice, cut once, then go cuss and go buy more fabric. Yep. Yep. This is the first time I've bought any fabric for doing this project though, or the Hankie challenge. I've been using scraps all along. And all that stuff over there to the side that has all my colors in it is all scrap. I'm going to have to dig a little deeper though for some pink and blue scrap to match. I'm not convinced I have enough yet.
I think the only reason you bought this stuff was because it's new enough that you don't have scraps of it yet.
I don't have any scraps of this yet. It just came in. All right, let's see. I think you're good. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Much better. Okay. Move that out of the way and move this out of the way. And you can see like there's this spray on my table. I wiped that off earlier, so now I'm going to have to do that again. Now that it's sort of been messed with, I definitely have issues with making sure it's square, even though I had cut off the bolt earlier. So that's good to know. I usually have everything prepared before I go. All right, 6.5. Now that I have a nice flat surface, I'm going to line that flat surface up along the bottom of my cutting table. And just keep going around, lining up my horizontal and vertical lines. There we go. Okay, where were we? 5 minutes ago? Move all that stuff out of the way. Okay. So I was going to find the center of my knot square. Now I really am going to find the center of my square because this is going to work this time. Well, that's what happens when you actually have a square. Okay, there we go. So now I have a little bit of a crease down the center, and I think I'm going to actually crease both. That way I can really get it centered. And I'm going to start with my yellow. Now I can put this guy right in there. I want to make sure I'm eyeballing it. I know that he's not quite center, but I want to make sure that I have my 1/4 inch going all the way around and that I'm going to like that. And so the other thing I can do is I can bring out, you know, my rulers, and I can say, okay, I'm 3/4 of an inch from the edge here. I am 3/4 of an inch. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Okay, so that helps me as well. I'm going to turn him that way, just like that. His little guy right there. He has some little crochet things that are not lining up like they should be because they're curling. So I'm going to give them a little bit of help.
It's almost like you need to spray it with the spray.
I do actually feel like that might be something that would be helpful. We'll get you flat first because I think it actually is twisted down here. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So I also can pin this down. There we go. Oh, perfect. Okay. I still feel like he's sort of wonky. I need one of those little wand irons. There we go. Cool. I know there's something else down here. I'm just not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Oh, perfect. Oh my God. Hold on. Okay. Okay, now I think I am going to simply pin him in place and stitch away. So when I'm stitching, I'm going to use, for this project, I am using my my sulky. Oh, come on. Stay right. I am using my sulky invisible, or yeah, invisible. It's just almost like a fishing wire type of feel. I know you can't see it, but right here, the little tail is like right on the crease. I mean, like I couldn't do that better if I tried. That's really, really cool. So I'm gonna do everything I can to like keep that guy there when I'm stitching him. This guy really doesn't want to lay flat either.
Well, they've been curled for who knows how long.
Right, I think they were in a drawer. Well, and I've been throwing them around. Hank here and Hank there. All right, cool. Oh, I just love that. I love it. Okay, so I am going to do the same thing probably later today with the pink one. And so you know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I'm going to stitch this guy down. So I'm using my Silky Invisible. I have Aurifil Invisible too, and all of it feels like it's sort of like a fishing wire. And in my bobbin, I'm using a 50 weight gray. It's just, it will be fine. It's not going to show through or anything. So it's just going to, there we go. Got to hold your tongue the right way too when you're doing your needle threader. Obviously wasn't holding it right. There we go. Okay. So I want to use my blanket stitch up on the top. So with my blanket stitch, it's a forward, you go forward, backward, forward, over, over. And that will take care of this top section. I'm going to move this over here so you can see everything. It will take care of that top section. And the beautiful part of the blanket stitch, now listen here, you're going in the wrong way. There we go. The beautiful part of the blanket stitch is that it's going to catch that top part and go over to catch everything. And then I can be right on the edge of that white part, and I'll make sure I catch that as I go. So I need to change that to my correct stitch mode. All right, and then I also like to change the amount I go over. And I like the 2.5, so I change that down. My normal or standard stitch is 3.5, and I like to move that over just a little bit so that it's not as wide when it goes over. First thing I'm going to do is a tacking stitch, which means I'm just going down two or three stitches in the same place. And then I am just going to let my machine do the work. And so you can see how it's doing the forward, backward, forward, over, over. Some machines, though, just so you're warned, go forward, over, over, forward, over, over. They don't do that back. I really like that on this machine. It gives it a little bit more of a clean look. I'm going to pivot just a little bit there to make sure that I'm getting it in right there. Now, when I come to my antennas, I'm just going to go right over them. I will stick those down with a tacking stitch in a minute. But I'm just going to go right over this base. That'll tack everything down at the base, and then we'll go back and tack the little antennae up in a minute. Okay, I have a pin right here. I am going to move that pin so that I can pull it out as I go. So pivoting is the key. When you pivot, you want to make sure that your needle is down in your fabric. Glorious thing about using the thread that I'm using right now is that you can't see it. So if I make a mistake, oh well. That's part of my instant gratification thing. Gives me this instant gratification that it looks really, really awesome. Without having to go back and check too much out, because I do have a perfectionist spirit. So in order to make that instant gratification meet with that perfectionism, that clear thread makes it so you can't see a darn thing, and you can't see any of those mistakes that I make, because believe me, they are there. Okay, I've gotten to the point where I want to switch over to my regular stitch. And so I am simply going to switch back over. I am now back in the right. As soon as I come up, it switched my needle right back into where it needs to be. And so I'm going to go forward a little bit. And this is where I am just going to follow the edge of my design, tacking down as much as I can of my little project. I really am staying on that crochet so that it really tacks it down. And if I have to, I will go back and make sure I catch it. And I probably could slow my stitch down. My mom is online and she'll be like, oh, just pick up your foot. I'm a lazy quilter now. I really like my speed control on my machine. Okay, so of course you left me and didn't do what I wanted you to do. So I will hold you down. I can still see my crease. So I am going to make that guy go to the crease. Yes, I will. There you go. Love it when a plan comes together. Coolio. I have to go back and fix that. My little curly Q got caught up, I think. He sure did. So, oh no, it's okay. So you may not have a butterfly in your hankies, but maybe you have a different type of design. And so now as you're playing, you can have some ideas on how to take those designs out of those hankies and use that in a project that you want to use. And so see how he becomes part of the fabric now. I am going to attack this guy down. What was that? Move him forward. I mean backward. I'm going to attack this guy down, and I'm going to attack this guy down just a little bit because they're right on that diagonal, which will keep my symmetry going. And then I might put a few more stitches just in here just to hold them down, just to make this table runner just a tad bit more stable than what the hankies were originally. And so I can go, but you can see how my stitch there, and I'll turn it over so you can't even see my stitch on the back because I use that gray. Can sort of see my blanket stitch, but you can barely see any of it. And so it's just sort of hanging out there. And so that means that I can go in through here and do a few more stitches just to keep everything in place and make sure that it stays down when it's washed or, has that regular normal wear and tear. I have a little guy down here that I kind of want to pull out, and so I'll probably pull that guy out too. But you can see now how this is going to fit in that top square. You can't see that now, so I'll throw it up like this. How's that sound? You can see how this guy is going to fit up here in these, or down there in these squares. And then there might be some other stuff that I can put in here that will, take up some of this negative space, or it might just look absolutely beautiful the way it is. And so that is how I am going to do this one as well. And then we'll start next week by adding in some, I should put this over here. I'm thinking I want to add in some lacy over here. I'm trying to figure out how I could so totally add some of the lacing in the seams and that type of thing. And so I'm trying to figure that out, and that's what we'll figure out next Monday. We'll get started with that, as well as continuing to find my colors. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Laney's talking in the background. Is there anything I need to know? Nope, nothing I need to know in the background. And we will on Thursday be doing something totally new. If you have ever used a stripology and you would like to know how to make, triangles using a stripology, I am going to learn how to do that on Thursday, and I will teach you. And so that is my rejuvenating stitches on Thursday, is to learn how to, I have only ever done strips with the stripology, which I find absolutely wonderful. But come on, guys, I realize that we can do more. Let's do more with this tool. And so on Thursday, that is my challenge for myself on Thursday. That will be at noon. And then let's see if there's anything else going on this week. Don't forget the mini is going on, and so be looking for new videos for that. We are doing the bird today and more flowers on Thursday. And so check those out, and like, share, subscribe, comment, all that other stuff. go and drink your nice coffee and enjoy your time at your sewing machine. And we will see you on Thursday.